Hi guys, it's been a while. I've been kind of busy lately. I moved to Munich from Cologne in February, and of course, I spend all of my free time exploring my new city and going on trips. I actually went for a hiking trip into the Alps for the first time today. Um, just on a small mountain because the tall mountains are still not snow free yet. And I'm not a winter hiker, I don't have any snow gear. So the only mountains that I can climb are the snow free ones. So no Zugspitze for me yet. Zugspitze is the highest mountain in Germany and it's actually quite close to Munich. Anyhow, before I moved, I got rid of a lot of books. I got rid of all the books that I thought I wouldn't want to read again in the future. I actually gave away some of the books that I have listed as favorites on Goodreads, and I hope I don't come to regret that particular life choice. But having gotten rid of so many books means that I now have a lot of empty shelf space that I can fill with new books. And one of the first things that I did after I arrived in Munich was, of course, to check out the bookshops. And I found two English speaking bookshops, two bookshops that are exclusively English speaking. I don't know, there might be more, but I only know of two. One is a normal bookshop, and the other one's a used bookshop. I've already gone there twice and I bought some books on both occasions. They weren't necessarily great deals, but some of them were books that I might never have gotten elsewhere otherwise. One of them is King Hereafter by Dorothy Dunnet, which is the author of the Lyman Chronicles that I've already been gushing about on several social media channels. And this is her historical retelling of the Macbeth myth. It's going to be a while before I get to this one though, because I do want to finish the Lyman Chronicles first, and I'm only at the beginning of book three of six. So it's going to be a while. And I got a copy of Golden Hill by Francis Spufford. I think he was longlisted for the Booker Prize last year with his second novel, wasn't he? This is his first novel, I think, and it is a historical novel set in New York City in the middle of the 18th century, where a mysterious rich stranger kind of causes a little bit of confusion and intrigue in high society. Kind of, now that I think about it, it kind of sounds like Anna Delvey in the 1700s. And then I got two Japanese novels in the English translation. One is Silence by Shusaku Endo, apparently now a major motion picture. And it's about the persecution of Christians in 17th century Japan. And Black Rain by Masuji Ibuse, which is about the days, weeks, months after the Hiroshima bombing, where radioactive black rain fell from the sky. And it's based on interviews that the author took with victims and on the journals of victims. I actually already have a copy of this on my Kindle because I couldn't seem to get hold of any physical copy anywhere until I came to Munich. But I nevertheless bought the physical copy, even though it wasn't exactly cheap. But just because it's the kind of book that I want to read in physical format, I think it's hard to read. Any book I think that you read slowly is particularly hard to read on Kindle. So very glad I found this bookshop. And the other two books that I bought there probably don't need a lot of comment. One is The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. Stories about and from the Vietnam War. And Mary Lopez's About This Life, which is a collection of essays and stories about things that happened and that he saw on his many travels. Mary Lopez, the famous naturalist, nature writer, poet, author of Arctic Dreams, which I still have to read. I still haven't read it yet, but I have read his short story collection, Winter Count, which was absolutely amazing. And I'm curious to see what he does with the short format in nonfiction. And I also bought two used books online. One is The Bull from the Sea by Mary Renault, which is the second volume in her Theseus retelling. The first volume is called The King Must Die. And this is the only one of Mary Reynolds' historical or pseudo-historical novels that I haven't read yet, because I'm not that interested in the Theseus myth, or a retelling of the Theseus myth. And I'm a little bit peeved, to be honest, that I was made to pay €5 for this little thing, which doesn't go at all with the rest of my Mary Renault books, which are all in very nice, very not expensive, but expensive looking copies. And then there's this one, not worth €5 if you ask me, but at least the format is handy for reading on the underground. So this is probably going to be one of my next underground reads for my way to work. And the other book is Winterwood by Patrick McCabe, a psychological thriller or maybe even horror story set in rural Ireland, where the narrator's suppressed memories, I think, of his childhood are catching up with him and haunting him. I've already started to read this. I'm already over 30 pages in, and I'm very intrigued by the writing style. It's a thriller or horror story that was written with a little bit of ambition in the narrative style department, which doesn't seem to be a popular choice on Goodreads if the average rating is anything to go by. I think that's what doesn't appeal to most readers, but so far it really appeals to me. I saw this on the channel Apocalypse Reading, which I will link below, which you all should follow because it's quite fabulous. But I also bought some new books, and they were all very or relatively new releases. One is the, for me, long-awaited second volume in Marlon James's Dark Star trilogy, Moon Witch, Spider King, sequel to Black Leopard Red Wolf. And this is actually not a continuation of the story that is told in Black Leopard Red Wolf, but it is a retelling of the story from a different point of view. In Black Leopard Red Wolf, the protagonist and narrator, the Dark Wolf tracker, goes on a mission, a paid mission, in order to rescue a kidnapped child, which goes disastrously wrong, which is not a spoiler, it's in the first sentence of the book. And another member of this expedition was the Moon Witch of the title of this book, the Moon Witch Sogolon, which was kind of an antagonist to our narrator in Black Leopard Red Wolf, and now she gets an opportunity to tell her own version of the story and tell her own story. I think that's a fascinating way to write a trilogy, and it goes so well with the mythical theme of the trilogy, because as we all know, every myth comes in several versions, so it's very in keeping with the theme. And Mouth to Mouth by Antoine Wilson is new in paperback but has been out in hardcover for a few months. And it's a very short story. It's almost a novella, I would say. Oh yes, it's only 160 pages or so. It's a story about events or even just thoughts that are set in motion when a man rescues a drowned swimmer and reanimates him, and somehow I think this seems to have repercussions years on. I don't know. When I heard about it, I heard about it on Jalen's channel, The Bar and the Bookcase, which I will also link, and it sounded absolutely fascinating. I hope that it doesn't disappoint. And then finally, the last new or new-ish book that I bought new is a nonfiction book. It's Owls of the Eastern Isles by Jonathan C. Slaght, I think. Slaght. And it is about the quest to find and save the world's largest owl, which lives in eastern Russia, apparently. And it is written by a researcher, I don't know, a zoologist maybe. He has spent a lot of time in the region, and the owl, I think, originally used to be his PhD project. So he's not just some American who goes blundering about and writing about the people that he meets in a very distinctly American way. That was one of the things that I made sure before I bought this book. I read the preview very carefully, and I only bought the book after I had made sure, or when I couldn't detect any of this uppity attitude that you get so often in, particularly in American books of this kind and stories of this kind that were written by journalists or even just laymen who are neither researchers nor journalists. It's just a particular way of describing the country, the people, the customs that never sits well with me. But this looks very promising. On second thought, I don't even know if the author is American. Well, that might explain things if he isn't. Sorry, Americans. Actually, the acknowledgements all go to American institutions, so maybe he is American after all. So there you have it. Americans can be nice too. This video has probably been bad for my follower count. Let's hope that the scenery saves the day, and I'll see you very soon, guys, with another video. I am trying to get back into a routine. Bye, guys.